welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, hi, my name is Nicole and I'm a part-time reseller on Poshmark, and in today's video I want to talk about some hard truths that it's important to remember as a reseller, especially on Poshmark, but this also can apply to other platforms as well. I think it's so easy to get distracted and wrapped up in reselling and all of that, and sometimes it's just important to be reminded of certain things. Hopefully you're subscribed so you never miss a future video that I do here on this channel. Okay, so one thing I learned over the years, especially because I've been selling for as long as I have, and because I learned from brands that I sourced back in the day that I realized are not good anymore, it's okay to take a loss on individual items here and there if you need to. I mean, I know I started sourcing things at like really high prices per item, and when I say really high prices, I mean like $5 to $10 per item, which is crazy to me now because I would never do that. Sometimes it was even more, up to like $15, but that's the thing, like I didn't know what brands I was sourcing in the beginning, and I just started sourcing things without even realizing like how much they were costing, because to me I was like, oh, I'm getting an item for $5, that's a great deal. But then you don't factor in the fact that you need to then make 20% more than the price that you're selling it at to just break even, and then you realize how hard it is to sell certain things. So I realized that like those items that I bought back in the day might not actually sell the way I wanted them to because they're just not as good, and I also paid up for them. So it's okay to take a loss on individual items, which I have done a couple of times, because on the grand scheme of things, I'm making money, I'm making a profit on everything that I sell, and maybe you're just gonna have to sell something lower than you had hoped to, but it's okay because you're gonna have those other items kind of pick you up. And I think that's important because, again, sometimes you learn like by mistake, or you learn by trying a new brand and maybe you realize that it's not worth it. Or maybe if you do source your inventory pretty high, you'll realize very quickly that you might have to take a loss on items. But it's totally okay to do. You don't have to necessarily make profits or break even on every single piece that you source. And kind of going along with that first one, you may have to sell an item cheaper than you initially expected to. So again, I thought like certain items were gonna sell like crazy. I really thought, oh, this item's gonna sell for like $100. Let me list it there. And then it sat for 3 years, or it sat for 4 years, and then I'm like, okay, well, this is not selling at 100. I need to start lowering the price. And I think just in time you realize like maybe that was not the right price, and then you might have to lower it to 50 or 40 or something like that. So you might have to lower your prices over time. Don't be so stuck on what prices you list things at. Now, obviously you don't, go below what you should be going, but you definitely don't need to just stick to whatever price you started at, because it might not be the right price for the item. You're not going to sell it if you're so firm on that price that you thought you were going to sell it at. Another really, really tough one that I still to this day experience, and a lot of people experience, is there are gonna be highs and lows, and you just kind of have to power through. And I mean, another great one is that it's the summer slowdown is real, and it's really, really brutal, and so many people get discouraged. And especially if you start it in the spring or you start it in the winter time and you haven't been through a full year yet, like it's hard and it's really slow. So I always have to tell people, like, there's gonna be highs and lows. There's gonna be periods where it's really fast and there's a lot of sales, and then there's gonna be times when you're like begging for sales, and that's just kind of how reselling is. I know that's kind of hard to swallow, because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I just want it to be, smooth sailing every day because I want to be able to do this as a full-time job, and I need it to be, predictable. And unfortunately, reselling is not super predictable, because you don't know the market, you don't know the sellers, you don't necessarily know how the platform is going to be, and the platforms are ever changing, so it's hard to even keep up with that. You have to be able to power through those highs and those lows, and I know that's really hard, but that is really important to remember. The next really important one to remember is you get what you put in. So those people who are, taking really low quality pictures, and the people that are only listing a few items a month, or the people that are not sharing their closets and not being active on the platform, they're not going to get those daily consistent sales like some other people would. And if you're going the extra mile and taking good quality pictures, not even like in professional lighting, but like just in good lighting, you have those measurements, you have those detailed descriptions, and you're sharing your closet throughout the day, you're putting in more effort, means that you're going to actually get more out of it. So it's not just one of those things where you can put in minimal effort and really see good results. You have to work for it, and you have to do better, and you will see better results. Okay, this one might be the toughest one to swallow in the whole video, but you can't please everyone. No matter how hard you try, there's gonna be someone that's disappointed. No matter how good you think that you're doing, you know, your packaging, your care for the items, the quality of your items, so many things like that, there's always gonna be someone that's disappointed. And I took this to heart because I get my own custom packaging and I pay a lot of money for it, but I think it's worth it because I think it just makes people happy. But I had someone that gave me a bad review saying that they didn't like my packaging, and it kind of did break my heart a little bit. But then I realized, like, you know what? I'm just not gonna be able to please everyone. There's just people out there that are not happy, and that's just the way it is. And people are gonna find little things to nitpick because they're just not happy, and they're gonna take it out on you, unfortunately. They're gonna treat you just like any other store or website or anything like that. So you don't have to fight people, you don't have to get nasty with people, just let it go. Poshmark doesn't show those bad reviews, so you're totally fine. But I know that it can be tough, and I know it can be discouraging to see, but don't let it bother you. Don't let it, you know, upset you, because you really just can't please everyone. The next thing that's important to remember is you are gonna get lowball offers. That's just a guarantee with reselling. So you need to be able to kind of bounce back and maybe counter them or accept even sometimes. I mean, it's not a harm in accepting a lowball offer sometimes, but don't get mad, don't block them, don't decline, you know, just embrace it, because offers do lead to sales. And I don't know, 67% I think of sales on Poshmark come from offers. So there's definitely a great chance that an offer that you get is going to lead to a sale. It's really easy to experience burnout sometimes when, like, especially when things are slow, but you just have to, like, reward yourself. You got to give yourself breaks. You got to give yourself grace, because I know it's not easy sometimes, but I think it's really easy to get burnt out, especially when you think that you're doing everything right and nothing seems to be working. But that's the perfect time to really go and focus on your current listings and make sure that they are looking good. Maybe revamp the photos, add some details to the description, maybe change the lighting or change the title. There's always something that you can do to be better, but it's really easy to get burnout and feel discouraged. So you gotta just keep powering through, and you gotta just keep telling yourself that one day they're gonna turn around, because sales do turn around. And once you get back on the right side of the algorithm, it will get the ball going. Don't get discouraged when things are slow. And I know I talked about this earlier, but you have to be consistent to get consistent results. So if you're not listing daily, if you're not sharing daily, if you're not active daily, you're not gonna get consistent results. So you're not gonna get those consistent sales. It's really that simple, and it's very, very important to do. It's also really important to keep up with the trends and the changing times. You know, you gotta adapt to the platforms when they change, you know, different features, when they're emphasizing features, and maybe switch your brands that you're sourcing. Don't be afraid to try a new brand. And you've really got to keep up with the times. I know I'm guilty of continuing to source brands that, like, I thought were good 10 years ago and they're just not anymore, or even from last year for that matter, because brands change very quickly. So you have to keep up with the times, and don't be afraid to do that. Change isn't easy, but in reselling, it's actually really, really beneficial. And you have to be willing to learn and grow as, you know, as you resell in your business. I feel like I've grown a lot in the last 7 years of me reselling, and I'm not the same person that I was 7 years ago when I started this. And so you kind of have to be willing to learn, and you have to be willing to adapt to change and things like that. Otherwise, this is going to be a really, really hard journey for you. And finally, you have to be willing to change your strategy if things are not working. So if you're seeing that things are not selling and items are not, you know, moving the way you want them to, you need to be willing to change what you're doing. Maybe you need to change completely and maybe start fresh, or maybe you just need to change, you know, your listings and change the way you're approaching things. You can't be afraid to do that, because that can lead you to even bigger success. So hopefully you found some of these tips helpful. I know some of these are really tough pills to swallow. Again, believe me, I know, because I've had to tell myself these things over and over. And so hopefully one of these was a helpful reminder for you. Let me know down below the biggest pill that you had to swallow reselling, because again, I feel like there's so many out there and I probably missed a bunch of them. But let me know down below, because I'm sure there's a lot out there, and I'm just curious what you think is a tough thing to swallow with reselling. If you want to see another video on a new feature that was released recently to the platform that is actually really helpful, you could click right here. And if you want to see another video on some hacks that you should use when you're reselling to kind of give you more success and better results, you could click right here. But until next time, I will see you then.